Good evening, and thanks for staying with us. This is the big story here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is Chika Agu. Glad to have you with us this evening. The Chief Justice of Nigeria has called for the amendment of relevant laws to end most appeals at the Court of Appeal, which he said was competent, dexterous, and well equipped with the right materials and manpower to adjudicate effectively and resourcefully. Justice Olukayode Ariwola yesterday had appealed to Nigerians to be less litigious but more disposed to alternative dispute resolution instruments to free the courts from unnecessary cases overstretching both human and material resources in the judiciary. Declaring the 2023-2024 legal year of the Supreme Court in Abuja open, Justice Ariwola reminded the public that there must always be a winner and a loser after every legal firework, adding that he would do everything possible to ensure that the Apex Court attains its full complement of 21 justices before retiring next year. He emphasized the need to respect the rule of law and the holistic independence of the judiciary, as it is more deserving of public trust and confidence than ever before. And so we are going to dive into some of the suggestions put forward by the Chief Justice of Nigeria on the big story this evening. And joining me for this conversation, Mr. Bolanle Ulugbani, who is a lawyer and a public affairs analyst, and President Aigbokan, who is also a lawyer and co-founder FOI Council. Mr. Aigbokan and Mr. Ulugbani, good evening, and thank you very much for joining me on the big story this evening. I hope you can both hear me.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. So let's get straight to it. I'm going to start off with Mr. Ulugbani. What are your thoughts on the suggestions put forward by the Chief Justice of the Federation, saying that most cases should statutorily end at the appeal court and that we should have relevant laws amended for that? What do you think?
Well, I think that the thinking of the Chief Justice of Nigeria is in the right direction. I think that the proposal that he has made is, a good proposal, but I think that it's not gone far enough. We copied our presidential system of government from the United States of America. And in America, you find out that each state has its own high court, that is district court, they have circuit court, they have their Supreme Court in every state. And then they have the Federal Supreme Court. So in effect, there's a hierarchy of courts in each state of the United States of America, and there's the Federal Supreme Court that determines issues that border on the Constitution. So if we are stopping the appeal process by law and the state, by a decision of the Court of Appeal, it smacks of the possibility or a potential for a miscarriage or the lack of will to allow litigants exhaust the appeal process. By that I mean that in the High Court, at the High Court level, both the State High Court, the Federal High Court, National Industrial Court, Customary and Sharia Court of Appeal, these are all courts of coordinate jurisdiction. There's only one judge sitting. So that's one head. At the appellate level, the Court of Appeal, there are three judges or three justices sitting at the same time. And three heads are better than one. And when you are not satisfied and you have a valid basis to appeal further and you move on to the Supreme Court, there are five justices sitting at the same time at the Supreme Court. So five heads better than three. And if it's a constitutional matter at the Supreme Court, 7 justices may sit at the same time. This is what the Constitution provides for. So that by allowing 3 heads to, sit over the appeal from the judgment of a High Court judge or courts of coordinate jurisdiction with the High Court, may still not have gone far enough. What if the 3 heads in their reasoning made a mistake in their judgment There is no basis for review. So my own proposal, my own suggestion is that we should follow the American system in spirit and in our deeds. We should have state supreme courts where appeals from each state are taken care of at the high court, appeal courts for each state, and the supreme court for each state, so that you exhaust the process properly, and only matters that are constitutional in nature that affect the federal government of Nigeria, the individual and the federal government, the state versus the state versus indeed the federal government, just as is prescribed by the constitution, and even the National Assembly against the states and the federal government, and the matters that go to the federal supreme. So by this way, there is no sense that the entire judicial appellate process has not been exhausted, and then it reduces the burden of appeals at the federal supreme court. That should be the way to go.
Right.
The proposal by the CJN is not far-reaching enough with all due respect.
I will come to you with a couple of suggestions on the sort of cases that should go to the Supreme Court, because you made mention of, say, individuals versus federal government, and I think that that's a very interesting line of thought to explore. But just before we move on, let's hear from Mr. Aibuka. What do you make of the CJN's suggestion here?
I think it's the right move in the right direction. First and foremost, we must know what the Supreme Court stands for. It's the apex of the judicial hierarchy. It's the ultimate arbiter of justice in the country, and the last resort for litigants. I'm getting it now. So also very importantly is that the Supreme Court plays a role in defining the limits of power for each branch of government. Legislator, the executive. Supreme Court is the one who balances their capacity to exercise their power. And again, for the poor people or for the citizens, it protects their civil rights and liberty by interpreting relevant provisions of the law and also overruling that part of the law that contravenes their rights. That's their statutory duty, theoretically and practically. But broadly speaking now, they have two powers to interpret recondite legal issues and issues of national public interest. That's what Supreme Court should be doing. Not land matters, not assaults, not cases of kidnapping that should have ended at the Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court should streamline themselves to two broad sets of cases: issues of national public interest and issues of recondite law, which speak solely on law and not on fact. If they are to deal with issues of criminal matter, it must be a criminal matter that has an issue burden of fundamental rights. If they must deal with issue of banking, it must be a banking resolution that has issue of constitutional issue or issue that borders on serious public interest. Those are the issues that they can intervene in. We just went to the ECOWAS Court recently to determine whether or not Section 29 of the Nigeria Press Council Act doesn't contravene the right of Nigerian citizens who want to practice journalism. The ECOWAS Court interpreted it and said, you are right. This section of law should be what? Cut off. The National Assembly should amend that law and remove those provisions. Those are the issues that should ordinarily get to Supreme Court of Nigeria. Any other petty issues should end at the Court of Appeal, so that the Supreme Court of Nigeria can have a fresh breath.
There are. I'm looking at the figures here, right? For the year 2022-2023, that's September 2022 and July 2023, according to what the CJN had released, 251 judgments, and it said out of these, 125 were political appeals, 81 were civil appeals, and 45 were criminal appeals, right? And for him, this is a lot, but for the average Nigerian, well, that's your job, right? I wonder if you can help us understand how 81 civil appeals and 45 criminal appeals, within a 9, 10 months calendar year is a lot for the Supreme Court. And even if we talk about 125 political appeals, we know that election cases don't happen, just as often as we see, civil cases or criminal appeals. So how exactly are these figures here a lot for the Supreme Court? Help us understand, what's the sort of job or the sort of the number of cases that ideally we should be seeing as Supreme Court's handle, Mr. Lugbani.
Well, for the number of cases that are attributed to pre-election and election petitions, that were decided by the Supreme Court, it has to do with the season. The election cycle of Nigeria, is between, the period leading up to the elections and matters that come up as a result or consequence of the elections. So you find out that the political cases during this period have a tendency to be more in number. And it's a 4-year cycle. And, ordinarily, the political cases ought not to be that much. So it's a matter of the season. But for the civil appeals and the criminal appeals, it's a matter of how much the appellate court, that is the Court of Appeal, the second highest court in the land, has decided, or how much cases has decided that the appellants are not satisfied with. If they decided 100 cases, that 100 civil cases or 200 civil cases, that the appellants are not satisfied with, if they decided 300 criminal cases that the appellants are not satisfied with, you get that equal number of cases going up to the Supreme Court. So I'm saying, and I go back to my suggestion, why can we not have Supreme Courts in each state or within within an appellate division, Supreme appellate divisions, maybe in the geopolitical zones or even in the states, and this Supreme Court will be equivalent. That is, the officers there will be equivalent to officers at the Federal Supreme Court. In other words, it's another way of expanding the number of justices who currently sit, whose majority or maximum number is 21 at full complement at the Federal Supreme Court of Nigeria. We must decentralize the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Appoint more justices, decentralize the functions of that Supreme Court, and let everybody have a sense that the Supreme Court is actually, responding to the level of judicial appellate matters based on the fact that our society is developing faster. We are in a jet age. It's social media, it's advancement in the law, infrastructural development, contractual transactions are more advanced. The polity and politics is becoming more sophisticated, and I think that we need to move even further than the suggestion of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. And I think that it's a result of societal development. We are away from the ignorance that used to pervade the citizenry. The citizens are more aware of their rights. Whether these appeals have merit or not is another issue.
It will be interesting to see that happen in real time. Mr. Agbokan, I wonder where you stand on the suggestion put forward by Mr. Lugbani that we should decentralize the Supreme Court, allow every state in the country have its own Supreme Court. Where do you stand on that?
Thank you. I don't agree that each state of the country should have its own Supreme Court, but that goes with its own cost of governance. And there's a local slang that says "Wahala not the finish." Even if you have Supreme Courts in all the states, the state will also be thinking of having a privy council. So Wahala can never end. So everybody should end his case at the Court of Appeal, except your case falls within some specific cases I will mention. Appeals that arises from constitutional issue, appeals that arise from interpretation of the Constitution, appeals that arise from interpretation of the statutes, appeals that involve treaties, appeals where the federal government is involved, appeals where states, interstate, where they have conflict between interstate, Ondo State and Lagos State, such a state should get to the Supreme Court. Appeals where issues bordering on environment should go to the Supreme Court. Appeals where maritime, security and investment, civil rights and liberty, criminal cases with constitutional issues, like I've mentioned before, corruption-related issues bordering on statute, open government statute, like Public Procurement Act, Freedom of Information Act, Fiscal Responsibility Act, and all those statutes. Those are the issues that should come to Supreme Court. Any case that doesn't fall within that should end at the Court of Appeal. Disputes must end. Litigants must be compelled to end their cases. That's it. You can't set up Supreme Court in not assist it. It is cumbersome, it is frustrating, it is economical, it's not economical rather, and it cannot end. Conflict can never end. There must be a full stop to it.
Right. But Mr. Lugbani, you had said earlier that they also I can't exactly remember the words that you use, and I don't want to misquote you, but it was something along the lines of people not having faith in the judgment that they receive, sometimes even at the appeal courts level, right? Already we do have some electoral matters that end at the appeal court. So for instance, that of lawmakers, it ends at the appeal courts. Only the governors and the presidents can take their electoral cases further than the appeal courts. And I wonder if in trying to implement the decision or the suggestion of the CJN in the future, what sort of systematic changes must be applied to the courts under the Supreme Court, so that people know that even though my case will no longer go to the Supreme Court, if it terminates at the appeal court, I can rest assured that that justice has been served, even though I am on the losing end of this. What sort of changes are we going to be looking at if we were to make this happen?
Okay, well, right up to the point where it's tried law that the notion of justice, the perception of justice, is what the ordinary man on the street would feel, is just. That is the real perception or notion of justice. If you do or a court decides, I'm not talking of a mob mentality now. When a court decides reasonably, when a court decides based on law and facts, and the perception on the street, with the man on the street is that, it appears that from all the facts and all of the law, that and all and the way it has been related to each other, it appears that this decision is fair, this decision is just. You see, once the average man on the street, reads a judgment, hears a judgment, and feels that no, there's something wrong. This does not make sense. This is not reasonable. Based on all of the facts and the law that we know. I'm not talking about social media hype, propaganda, and a lot of all of those things that are actually mob related. No, the facts and the law. Once the average man on the street feels that yes, it appears the perception that justice has been done, then justice and the perception of justice is restored, in our judiciary. And I say whatever is good for the goose is good for the gander. If we have some headings that are supposed to be, what the Supreme Court can handle in the future when the law is amended, if all matters do not go to the Federal Supreme Court, the average man on the street must have it, because you see, the court system, the co-equal branches of government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, which we copy from the American system, is supposed to represent the interests of the common man, and if the common man feels that his right to pursue justice is being abridged by law to only one appellate jurisdiction, where then is the perception that he's getting justice? If, for instance, if that amendment were to go the whole hog and have more members of the Supreme Court appointed to save even 100, and the Supreme Court were to be decentralized into each geopolitical zone, where all the matters that are going to be appealed from the Court of Appeal are taken to the Supreme Court of their geopolitical zone, then when that decision is made and not abridged at the Court of Appeal, I think that all of us who are Nigerians will feel that at least I was given the opportunity to exercise my right to appeal. So after that, the only appeal left is to God.
Right,
To abridge it at the Court of Appeal, it doesn't sound reasonable or fair.
Right, and I mean, obviously, you know, when you hear Nigerians and how they sort of think of judgment of election cases in Nigeria, for instance, you can get the sense that, you know, it would be a very controversial one. But Mr. Igbokan, you know, in your response earlier on, you made mention of just the costs of having Supreme Courts in all states in the country, but when you hear the CJN speak, he's talking about the number of cases that they have, and we don't even have a complete bench, right, at the Supreme Court. We don't have all justices yet there, and hopefully they're able to fill that up, you know, in no time. Is this, you know, a case of let us actually see if we can expand the Supreme Court so that there are more justices sitting on these cases? Or, you know, are you strongly on the side of, look, it's fine the way it is, let's just give them less work to do?
Yes, what I'm saying is that the structure is strong and sufficient enough for now. Let us reduce litigant trek to justice. One, you build the judicial integrity. Two, you employ the right people in judiciary. Three, you hear and give judgment of cases within time. That's all. You don't need another Supreme Court state by state, because if you have Supreme Court in every state and you have competent people sitting there, the integrity is lowered and the trust of the people is also affected. So what the people need is not Supreme Court at their doorstep. It's a Supreme Court that can be
Mr. Lugbani revised his he sort of revised his suggestion earlier, right? And in his last statement, he said in a Supreme Court in each geopolitical zone. Mr. Igbokan, does that appeal to you?
Yeah, a Supreme Court in each geopolitical zone, that may be a standard. It may be a standard. But I'm very painful and pathetic about having a judiciary of integrity. I'm very particular about having a judiciary of competence. Because if I go to court and I know, after arguing my case, I did a case before the Election Petition Tribunal, and we went to Court of Appeal. I was briefed at the Court of Appeal. I told my client, we cannot win it. He said, but just do something. And I filed my brief, and the judgment came out, we didn't win. If I had won that case, I would have been surprised. Hello, we need to have a judiciary that is measurable, not a judiciary at a doorstep.
Right.
So if I may just add,
yes, please.
I think quality control of the human resource that is appointed to our appellate courts is very important, as my colleague is saying. But it does not remove the fact that, you know, the Federal High Court has increased the number of its judges to, I think, a minimum of about 100 from the constitutionally prescribed amount some years ago. There's nothing wrong if we're having more cases in a more sophisticated, a more litigious, a more knowledgeable society, as ours is developing in quantum leaps, a commercial, you know, bedrock for Africa. You know, Lagos alone, the amount of matters in Lagos alone justifies that the number of cases we have and the number of those capable of responding as judicial, as the apex court of the judiciary to the matters coming up, yeah, it should be increased. 21 for a population of over 200 million people. I think it's inadequate. They should have more justices. We should decentralize the Supreme Court, and appeals should be allowed to the apex courts. All appeals.
Very. I mean, I hear you, and I would talk to Lagosians right after this to hear what they're saying about, you know, having a Supreme Court in each geopolitical region. That's one of the points that I never thought of before, you know, planning this show. So Mr. Lugbani, thank you for bringing that up. As far as quality control goes, Mr. Igbokan, what for you is a very important step that the Nigerian judiciary must take, whether in terms of house cleaning or in terms of improving its capacity to not just, serve justice, but also to help the people see that justice is being served?
Thank you. The first thing is that the Supreme Court must put their house in order, particularly the NJC, and go after lawyers who can actually be at the appellate courts. In those days, they shop for judges. Nowadays, lawyers shop for the judicial seat. They hustle for it like an appointment. It ought not to be. They should go for those who have capacity and competence to preside over the affairs of this country. Because we are having high level of incompetence at the judiciary. You cannot even predict arguments. Even lawyers laugh. I did a case at the Court of Appeal. After the justices delivered their judgment, I and the opposite counsel went to one corner and started laughing. I said, what has this one just done? It is not about winning or losing. It's about incompetence with preliminary arguments. You cannot decipher the fact from the law and state what the law is on those issues. So the level of incompetence there is so high. And that is worrisome. And it goes to public trust. The public will not trust the system. You cannot measure it. Can I win or can I not win? You just say, lawyer, just try. You never can tell. Lawyer, try. You never can tell. We are gambling the judiciary. It ought not to be. It ought to be measurable standard. You know you cannot win. You tell your client this case cannot fly. These days, the client will tell you, just try. Don't worry, just try. It's very painful. Our judiciary these days cannot be measurable, and it's painful.
Well, Mr. Olugbani, I wonder if you have any last thoughts on this.
Well, my thoughts are that the CJN, needs to go further. His suggestion or proposal is a step in the right direction. Our society, our population, our level of development, I think actually, deserves, that we should go further. We should have more justice of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court should be decentralized, and all stakeholders, should be allowed to contribute to this pertinent issue. The senior advocates, the magistrates, the state councils at the state council at various ministries of justice, federal ministry of justice, judges at the High Court, Federal High Court, Court of Appeal. There should be a stakeholder summit, to actually deliberate on the way forward and see whether we can actually do better than what the CGN is proposing.
Right. Well, sounds like a plan, and let's see if that becomes a reality in the near future. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for sharing your time and your insights with us this evening on this conversation. Hopefully, we're one step closer to building the Nigeria of our dreams. So, Mr. Bolanle Olugbani, lawyer, public affairs analyst, thank you very much. And President Ibuka, lawyer and co-founder FOI Council, thank you very much, and have a pleasant evening. And that is the big story here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. Now, I want to hear from you, Lagos. You've heard the lawyers speak, right? From a call to bring more lawyers into the judiciary, into the Supreme Court, rather. Let's get more justices, if you will, into the Supreme Court. Let's see if we can establish Supreme Courts in each geopolitical regions of the country. Let's streamline the sort of the kind of cases that make their way up to the Supreme Court. All of this, I want to hear your thoughts on them. Okay, so 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111 953. These are the live studio lines to dial to talk to us this evening right here at the round table. So stay with us. We're right back in a heartbeat.
Be a part of our online community on Facebook. Like our page on www.facebook.com/This Is Radio Now to join every conversation on air and get up-to-date news information on the go.
Please, officer, now. I know to make money today. I beg now. Hey!
Laolu! Today is the day you are going to pay for all your sins.
Something exciting out of the stables of Sanitary Pad Media Campaign.
Now, me. I know well, since yesterday. My stomach, I dey pain now. Come on, I no sleep.
Yeah. a radio drama soap, My Period, My Pride.
This woman, come on for road. You know they look your back. Come on for road, this woman, huh? Come on for road.
My Period, My Pride, an advocacy tool for the provision of free sanitary pads for schoolgirls in Nigeria, powered by Sanitary Pad Media Campaign with support from MacArthur Foundation and Radio Now 95.3 FM.
My Period, My Pride, Season 1, The Story of Ife.
Every Saturday at 10 a.m.
Go to Financial Services Regulation and Coordinating Committee FSRCC tinyere National Broadcasting Commission NBC johere ado ho obodo aka na ntị banyere ndị na-atụ mgbere ego iwu akwadoghị bụ Illegal Financial Operators IFO nke na-eme ka ndị mmadụ ghara inwekwa ntụkwasị obi ọzọ tinyere na ngalaba na-ahụ maka ego na Nigeria enweghị nkwudosi ike ha jizi ohere agwa ndị ọha obodo ka ha kwụsị ịtụnyere ndị na-atụ mgbere ego enweghị akwụkwọ ikike inwekwara ike ime nchọpụta banyere akwụkwọ ikike ụlọ ọrụ dị otu a site n'akara webụsaịtị ndị a www.cbn.gov.ng, www.nicom.gov.ng, www.pencom.gov.ng, www.sec.gov.ng. maka inye mkpesa banyere gburugburu ego n'ụdị ọbụla kpọọ 07002255226 08002255226 maọbụ +234-817-665-6273. ozi a si n'aka FSRCC.
News and information go around every second. The ones who deliver it and how matter. We give you depth, substance from the real sources.
I made statements in that regard, and the first point I called was the National Working Committee.
There wasn't any agreement between Bashir Machina and Ahmad Lawan.
The DPO, the Divisional Police Officer who is on grounds there, went there.
Also giving you a more human angle on the events that matter.
They are not people that live in mansions, but they are people that live within localities, and the people are afraid to.
There are so many issues there in area boys. Then we now went to.
Let's cut the convention and rather have a conversation. Radio Now 95.3 FM, Lagos. We go beyond the news.
On air, online, and on your mobile. This is Radio Now 95.3 FM, Lagos.
The issues are all around us, but who talks about them? Law enforcement breaking the law, property owners ripping off tenants, political office holders taking the electorate for granted, or is it the plague of recurring bad policies made by the government? These are the issues. Let's talk about these and more at the Round Table. Stay locked on to Radio Now 95.3 FM every weekday as we discuss these hot topics around us on the Round Table on Now Express. The Round Table, weekdays, 5:30 p.m.
Thanks for staying with us. Good evening and welcome to the Round Table here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is Chika Ago. So the Chief Justice of Nigeria is saying that not all cases should end at the Supreme Court. He's saying that a lot of our cases, right, should end at the appeal courts. And we've just spoken to two lawyers who in many ways agree with the Chief Justice, but we just couldn't agree on certain, fine details. And that's absolutely fine, At the end of the day, if we're going to make any significant change to the Constitution, this has to go through the entire process of going to the National Assembly, and then it will have to go around the country, and, all of the changes that need to be made will be made and then forwarded to the president for assent. So we're still a long way from this becoming reality. But right now, I want to get your thoughts on this. 0913-5000-953 and 0901-111-953 if you want to say, if you want to share your thoughts on this matter. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Chika. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, Obi.
Yeah, how are you doing, Chika?
I'm good. Obi, go on with your thoughts.
Chika, you're on it again today. Chika, you're trying your best. You're trying so much.
I do what I can.
you love your country, my brother. Oh, Chika, nice man.
Yes, ask the CJN what kind of case would he want to come to Supreme Court? Left for him. I know he will say only political cases. Left for him. That's what he's going to do. If cases don't come to Supreme Court, what job will he be doing? If he doesn't want to see cases in Supreme Court. You see, Chika, whether they send it to our houses, the local government, Nigeria will still be Nigeria. They will never change. Corruption. If you like, make the Supreme Court everywhere, even in your villages, it will still be the same thing. Thank you very much, Chika.
Thank you very much. Look, I don't think it's healthy that we approach every matter with skepticism as a people. I don't think so. I don't think so. At some point, right, we have to step back and look at things differently and say, okay, look, is this actually something worth, exploring? But that's just me. Okay, that's just me. 0901 1111 953 and 0913 5000 953. Again, 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111 953. Ambassador Musbao, good evening. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right, Ambassador Musbao. Carry on.
Yeah. So me, I think, we need to have, we should have positive mind about our country. Just, not every day we hit the country below the belt. Shouldn't be. We have no other country than Nigeria here. No matter what, Nigeria is still in our country. Just, even though you nationalize other place, you cannot change your color. Now, Chika, I don't believe in this. I think our judiciary needs to be reformed, and also to the lawyers, they need to change their mind. They need to just because of this their job, there will a case that is not supposed to be more than 6 months. They will prolong the issue for 6 years. Adjourn. They will not show hope. This is why some people lose hope. I think all the court cases, you don't go beyond the court of appeal. And it should be speed trial. Where we tell you, now, take it to court now. So I think the judiciary to be reformed. No cases should go to Supreme Court. Like land cases, even domestic violence cases at times. So even family issues. Where family have issue between themselves. Either land or property from high court to court of appeal to Supreme Court, 30 years. It shouldn't be. So all cases should end. Even high court said, so as this speed trial should be. So I love this. They should just not what they do. No matter what it takes to pass through the National Assembly to the President. Please let's speed over this and make it happen that. No case issue more than 6 months. So and I just better for him. Let him go with it. Thank you, Chika.
Thank you very much. What do you make of the suggestion that each geopolitical region in the country should have their own Supreme Courts? One of the lawyers on the program earlier on had made the suggestion, and I want to also hear what you think of that. Each geopolitical area in the country having its own Supreme Court. Is that a lot in your opinion? Is that something to actually consider? 21 justices at the Supreme Court, is that enough? Do you think we should consider expanding to accommodate more justices into the Supreme Court? My number is available. If you want to leave me a voice note on WhatsApp, please do that. My WhatsApp line is 0809-682-2595. 0809-682-2595. That's my WhatsApp line. Please leave me a text. Emmanuel is at Oniko calling in. Hi, Emmanuel. Welcome.
Good evening, Chica. How you doing?
I'm all right, my brother. Good evening.
Yeah. The Chief Justice is right when he says that too many cases are going to be in court. But I just say that most of the cases are accommodate political cases. But coming to your question, it would be nice to actually have Supreme Court in the zone In the US, it's even better. They have it in the States. So you have like the New York Supreme Court, and then you have the Federal Supreme Court as well. You know, if that is done, it will be better. But can we, as people, I know you were saying that, yeah, and truly, we should be more positive about things concerning our country. We shouldn't be speaking unnecessary words negatively about our country, because that also has another respect as well. So please, listeners, let us try and speak well. Even if you don't agree, try and say the best possible words that you can use to describe how you feel. But coming from that, if the people, the lawyers, you're one of your guests was saying that the situation whereby prior to now the judiciary would seek for lawyers that will become judges. It is now lawyers that are seeking or using different means to become judges now. It's really I don't know the word I'll use to express, but you get what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So I think generally we as the people, whatever you are doing, try and show integrity and competence.
Right.
Very
important. Emmanuel, thank you very much for your thoughts this evening. Appreciate them. Josh, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chika. So my own contribution is what they call it. I think this is more or less like putting the cart before the horse. There are some things that need to be done first, if you ask me. First of all, okay, there was an incident that happened in the United States during this election period that I think Atiku took the case of what they call it, Tinubu to court in US or something that has to do with the university. That's Chicago State University.
Mm-hmm.
You know, initially the lawyer or the lawyer representing Tinubu was appealing, was trying to appeal after he has appealed the second time or first time also. I think there was something the judge said. The judge said that there won't be any further appeal on this case. So you see, in Nigeria, that appeal would have gone ahead several times, not even minding that the person that brought the case was like he wanted to use the case for something in Nigeria and all that kind of stuff. Our judiciary system, I don't know if there's anything around discretionary discretions and all that, taking discretions and all that. The judiciary needs to be independent first. I feel those are the first things. They need to be independent. It's not this one of maybe states that are taking care of them, giving them money and all that kind of stuff. By the time you have the Supreme Court decentralized all over the place, they will still use money and what they call it, and bribe them or whatever it is, control them. But at least like even in Abuja is even better off for now, you know. But still, they're not still. You can't still say that they are not taking something, you understand? Because the kind of judgment they are bringing out, something I don't understand. But the point I'm trying to say is that it's putting the cart before the horse. By the time they reform the judiciary, get the right judges in place, make them independent. The High Court, State High Court, independent. The Appellate Court, independent. Everybody, even the Supreme Court, independent. Then what are we talking about? All these things, before you know it, cases will be, they'll be handling cases easily and all that. Then of course, I also agree with the aspect of it's not every case that should come to Supreme Court. I agree with that. But my own major thing is that before you even talk about all these things, first of all, fix your house. Let your house be in order. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. He says, fix your house. Let your house be in order. All right, I hear you. I mean, clearly, even the lawyers acknowledge there's a lot of house cleaning that the judiciary needs to do. There's a lot of house cleaning. We need to improve our quality assessment process. We need to ensure that, the competent lawyers are getting getting the positions, are put in place to get the work done. Ambassador Musbal.
Yeah, you talk about the region should have their Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. That is fine. Sure, stamina. I love that. Maybe they can maintain that.
Why do you think think it's a good idea?
All cases, you know what I'm saying? That all cases should be at Abuja. Something happened in the southwest now. You wait for Abuja for the Supreme Court hearing. They happen in the east now. You go for the Abuja for the Supreme Court hearing. That is why this will discongest the case before the Supreme Court. If what happened in southwest here, the Supreme Court is going to handle that. What happened in the north, Supreme Court. So if this congested the Supreme Court, think about this. This is a fantastic idea. So and moreover, people are the reason why the judiciary are not working. So stamina. Do the case of when the kidney transplanting, when the court in UK want to give judgment, everybody in Nigeria here, including the baby in the womb, were begging. I beg now. Suffer justice. Even the baby is still in heaven, who are yet to come, still begging. I beg now.
Ambassador Musbah, I need to go. Thank you. I need to talk to somebody else. Dr. Paul, good evening. How are you? I can hear you. Welcome. I'm so sorry.
Who is going to fund that Supreme Court Is it the governor? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I mean, I don't have a response for that. It's not a rhetorical question.
When you have a job or a teacher like Ariwola, can you tell me what has done so far to become the children of this country? Do you think he will say better when he wants to? All this throwing ball and then nothing happens. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, people are now discussing about it. Look at the suggestion remain the Yaga, Prenta, Bank, etc. What is the thing? Are they going to look into that? So these are the issues. In a country here, to me, judiciary is in politics. So that whether you like it or not, judiciary in Nigeria is in politics, and any country judiciary is in politics, that country is gone. Whether you like it or not. That's the problem. It's not having a Supreme Court or the state judiciary. What has done the background of those things there? This state is going to fund them. So, instead of us taking awareness, talking about everything, what of state police? State police to me is better than having Supreme Court all over the state. Are you not the level of insecurity in this country now? Are you not seeing it? Every day killing in one state. It's not in the state for us. Every day, it happens here and there. I will talking about this Supreme Court. It cannot work. It cannot change anything. Because usually you have to do in something else. Look at all the regulations left by those insiders. To limit that matter, if you are more hard, what you said about this area. Adamu Bukatawu. Is that what you say? How you used to interfere into judgment of life, which is mentions of people beneficiary. He did not say this inside his bedroom. The whole world happened. So what happened? As if they arrested, the other person says the same thing. What's that the same again? So these are the issues. Having of this thing that is investigated, all this regulation by this people that is going on in the country. They are not of the opinion of the school when people say, if they perform me, I say democracy is on course. If they not perform me, I say no. It's not what I'm talking about. What we're talking about the judiciary in Nigeria. It's been 40 years ago, this time of the put out of this whole many of them will have the way. So many of them.
All right.
This is what we have to do.
Dr. Paul, thank you very much for your
It
contribution.
is quite unfortunate. We should talk about having safe space in this country. The number of insecurity in this country is unimaginable. Can you travel to your state and say you are well secured? So
All
this
right.
one to me doesn't mean anything.
These are the fair contributions that we want to hear from you. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Obi, you're back.
Chika.
Mm-hmm.
Chika. How many times did I call you?
Twice.
Please, I beg you in the name of nobody should come on the radio and advise a 60-year-old man what to say on radio. Chika, what is happening on those states now? Does the day-old baby not know that if the governor is incapacitated, that the deputy should fit in immediately? And what is happening now? Is it the same Nigeria? Is it not the same Nigeria? Some people are claiming to be more patriotic than others. It's very, very unfair. Let us look at Nigeria and say things the way they are so that Nigeria can get better. If we continue to behave like ostrich in this country, we will remain standstill, for God's sake. People today that are talking. I could remember people that are claiming to be patriotic. 1993, when Abiola lost the election, I know Nigeria was let loose. Although people like us who supported Abiola because of injustice. We were all against it. But some people here was less. But if some people are angry today, some people they're emotional. They're this. Come on, please. When it suits us, we say what we like. When it doesn't suit us, we say what we like. Nigeria, there's a lot of rot in Nigeria. Let us speak out. Nobody can be more patriotic in this country than Igbo man who lives everywhere, who invests everywhere. Nobody come and tell me that Igbo man is too patriotic. That's why they build a house, they live everywhere in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Obi, for your thoughts this evening here on the roundtable. I don't think this is a question of who is more patriotic than the other. I think this is a question of charting a path forward for everybody, using the judiciary as a guide for some of the changes that we need to make, right? And I think we need to see it through that lens. So otherwise, we'll miss the bigger picture. I think I can squeeze in one last call, and then we'll call it a wrap this evening. Shegun, good evening. Welcome.
Actually, I just want to comment on the last caller that there's nobody patriotic except the Igbo.
Mr. Shegun, I can't hear you clearly. Can you speak up a little louder?
You said that there's nobody that is more patriotic in this nation than Igbo people. Not just a thing. I think that's another one that we're talking about. And second, let me just go straight on my point.
Yes, please.
Actually, this is not judiciary. I think what the first caller said about that is this will have the House Supreme Court. You're actually right in the sense that there's no going to be more cumbersome cases in the federal, and by doing so, they can have a lot of mix-up, and they will not be able to even go through it because the time they're supposed to spend for one case and they are using to attend to like 5 cases. So they may not be able to come out with a kind of claim judgment. I think that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shegun. I hear you and appreciate your thoughts on the conversation on the topic this evening. And that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you very much for being a part of the roundtable. I'm back tomorrow. We'll do this again from 2 to 6 p.m. So make sure to join us then. My name is Chika Agu. The news summary is up next at 6 p.m. Have a good night.
Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.